Watchdog comes to you compliments Western Union, the fastest way to send and receive money worldwide. And furniture for Watchdog provided by Hubbard's. Good evening. Welcome to Watchdog. With us this evening, a first timer actually, Mr. Dwight Hosford. He's an executive member of the New National Party, also an attorney at law by profession. And of course, my co-host Andrew Gentleman. Good evening. Welcome to Watchdog.
Good evening. A pleasure.
This evening, I want to chat with Mr. Hosford about some matters as it relates to the Constitution. He should be able to help us and what is happening in the country. We'll get to that right after the break. Now at Hubbard's.
Why this brownie tastes so tasty? What's in it? I'd like to know. How you cook this chicken curry? Tell me why it tasty so.
Barren sauces is the answer. Barren flavor all the while. Barren makes your food taste better. Garlic sauce, Chinese stir fry, West Indian hot sauce, it's a winner. Passion fruit sauce, tasting great. When your friends come round for dinner, the food so good they can hardly wait. Barren makes your food delicious. Barren makes food tasty.
It's the end of the month again. My son's rent is due.
Sending money to your children studying overseas is easy. Western Union's safe and reliable service lets you transfer money everywhere in the world.
My son is doing well at school. That makes me proud.
Western Union, moving money for better.
Chillaxing with Glenelg Spring Water.
Unlimited talk, $75. Talk unlimited to over 50 destinations. Unlimited talk to all local landlines. Landline to mobile, 45 cents. Sign up now.
Watch Talk Clip.
We now return to Watchdog with Godfrey.
Welcome back. And we have with us Mr. Hosford, executive member of the New National Party. Mr. Hosford, one of the talking points recently, and even now, was the prorogation of Parliament. Of course, we want to get some enlightenment because there are a lot of people out there who really still doesn't seem to understand, all the little circumstances surrounding that. Whether or not, Parliament is finished, or whether or not election will be called, or what are some of the intricacies involved with the prorogation of Parliament, and what can or cannot happen during that period?
There are no intricacies as such. The Parliament is still alive. What has happened is that one session of the Parliament would have ended by prorogation. What the prorogation does, it sends the Parliament on a recess. And after the prorogation would have been ended, the Parliament is summoned again to begin another session. Sorry. Mm-hmm. The controversy arises, particularly in this context, because it can be used as a tool, really, to avoid the Parliament, especially when you have problems of confidence and supply in Parliament. By confidence and supply, I mean, in the Westminster model, it is really majoritarian democracy in that there is a fusion between the Parliament and the executive, and that the executive must be drawn from the Parliament. Mm-hmm. And in our context, where parliamentary seats are few, not like in the UK where you have 600 and change, mm-hmm. Almost invariably, the entire cabinet will constitute the majority in the House as such. And if you have, as in this context, you have a difficulty with your majority, you would not be able to raise supply, that is. You would not be able to have resolutions of the parliament pass it and borrow, as the case may be.
I want to cut across you here. You mentioned, okay, the UK has 600 plus members, and it's more than 600 times the size of Grenada. You talk about the numbers and the supply. Are you not of the opinion that we have too many constituencies and too many parliamentarians and too many of freeloaders on the national purse, whether they are going to serve 8 years and get on pension, all of that? Don't you think we have too many parliamentarians, given the small size of Grenada?
I wouldn't say so.
I'm sure you wouldn't.
I wouldn't say
That's
so.
not the question.
I wouldn't say so. Because the number of seats in Parliament is particularly linked to the population count in constituencies. For example, even now you have the St. David's constituency getting very large in terms
but
of
time
population
out.
count.
In Trinidad next door, in Barbados next door, certainly in Trinidad, an MP represents a couple 100,000 people. In Barbados, they represent tens of thousands of people. In Grenada, every look at 3,000 people has to support an MP, and we have to pay. You guys get into office, and in short order, you're entitled to a pension. Public servants have to give 20 years. You guys give 8, and then you're entitled to a pension. We can't afford it. One of the reasons this country is bankrupt is because we have too many freeloaders getting pension and sitting around. And you guys are not working for this money and living a good life. So don't you think, because remember, in 1972, up until 72, there were 10 seats. And then there was a manipulation of the process, and we expanded it to 15, and we cut constituencies into 2 and 4 to ensure the victory for a certain progressive party. So I come back to the fact that we need to go back to prior to 72, reduce the number of MPs, representatives, freeloaders, pensioners, the whole lot, and bring the fiscal books into balance. Well, and I know you wouldn't agree.
Well, that is one, no, I don't. That is one angular view. Another angular view.
One sensible economic perspective, I'd like you to call it.
Well, one may say so,
Okay.
but there are other angular perspectives. One other angular perspective certainly is that, as I was just mentioning, when the population increases in a constituency, you may have to review the boundaries of that constituency as that is coming into play now.
How
the case of
how many people are in St. David's?
Well, I don't have
Off the top, 3,000?
No,
I think it would be more than that.
Six?
It would be more than that.
6,000?
Yeah.
10,000? And you are suggesting to me that one MP can't adequately represent 6,000 to 10,000 people. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm not suggesting that.
Because if you had suggested, I would have said you all are too lazy.
That is one view.
But Andrew, have you
Do you
considered-
share that view?
No, I don't share that view
Okay.
at all.
But have
I
you
don't share
considered,
that.
Andrew, for example, like Trinidad? You mentioned Trinidad was where you have one MP representing so many people. Ever occurred to you that maybe that's one of the reasons why there's so much problems in Trinidad?
One MP in the United Kingdom could represent millions of people. Are there all these problems in the United Kingdom?
Maybe you don't know about them. Trinidad is just 2 steps. We hear about that every day.
No, BBC would report adequately. I'm satisfied I would.
But I wanted
Let's go
to
back
ask
to
you a
Mr.
question back
Hossford.
at Dwight. Someone made a statement to me. It was quite interesting. Does the Prime Minister still have the majority in Parliament?
Well, that has to be tested by a return to the Parliament. Certainly, the Constitution provides for ascertaining the confidence of the government. That is testing the Prime Minister's majority in the House itself upon a motion of no confidence. As it stands now, we know theoretically this is a minority government, and we are in the midst of a prorogation, so that we are not before the Parliament at this time, but conceptually he does not have that majority.
Well, I'm interested that you say that because and I'm not sure, and that's one of the reasons why we have you here. The fact that the backbenchers, so-called backbenchers, have not crossed to the other side, doesn't that say that he still holds a majority?
And before you
Well,
answer
that's what I
that,
said.
before you answer that, let me add. In fact, at the last motion of no confidence, by the backbenchers supporting the government, they proved that, in fact, notwithstanding the fact that they're not front benchers or the back of the class,
Private members.
private members. Are they private members? Is that,
Well, that is what
that would be
called
the
in
term.
Parliament.
Okay, so that they're private members. They did support the government, and it is fair to assume they may well do so in the future.
One may assume that. That's why I said we have not tested. The Constitution provides for a process of testing that.
Sure.
That is going to the Parliament. We are not going to the Parliament, and I don't foresee
the
that we will be
deputy
returning to the
party-
Parliament at all.
The deputy at all.
I doubt. Strongly doubt.
Okay, but we have 6
Andrew,
months.
hold on a second, Andrew. But what I'm frankly speaking, the Prime Minister has 6 persons in his corner, right? There are 5 backbenchers, all right? Backbenchers, they're neither here nor there.
Private members, yes.
Private members, all right, because the opposition is 4. So the Prime Minister, in fact, still has a majority because the backbenchers have not crossed the floor to the other side.
Well,
No, they're not
at
with
least
they're not with the Prime
is
Minister.
Certainly, for all intents and purposes, if not on the with the official opposition and independent, I think it's fair to say that Mr. Church has made it absolutely clear that he does not support the government no matter what. So he's down.
But he is
to,
but the point I'm making, no, I understand that. But
So
the
he
point
has
I'm
4.
making, the point I'm
4
making is
questionables, 4 undecided, we can call them.
4 undecided.
4 undecided.
So right. So if that is the case, doesn't it even make the Prime Minister's position better because they are private members of the House? So they belong neither here
Well,
nor
see,
there.
that is
ask a
that is why we've been asking. We've been calling for the Parliament to resume. What is important to note here is that in the particular context of our economic difficulties and government's problems that they have, particularly so in addressing the recurrent obligations, particularly the salaries and so on, it is important to return to the Parliament. Now, the Constitution does allow the prorogation. A government in minority can survive so long as they can meet supply in the currency of the prorogation.
For up to 6 months, is
For
there a term
up to
on
si-
it?
For
Yeah.
up to 6 months. For up to 6 months. Now, as I mentioned just now, I don't see how you can adequately address your recurrent obligations in the midst of a prorogation without going to the Parliament and getting the authority of the Parliament to deal with the administration of the state. That is why I mentioned earlier as we started, there is in the model of government that we practice here, the Westminster tradition, that link with the Parliament or that link between the Parliament and the executive. So it would be very untenable and impracticable to try to stretch out.
But permit me to cut across you, Counsel. Current experience is proving you wrong because we have not called Parliament, we have not gone to Parliament, we have proceeded to divest ourselves of state assets and raise funds to meet recurrent expenditure by selling crown jewels, if you will, to pay the gardeners. And we are proving you wrong. It can be done and it is being done.
Which is a scandal.
But for how long?
That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying that it cannot be done. I said that so long as they can do it. Now, there are certain consequences coming out from your commentary just made, that you're really squandering the patrimony of the country when you have to be selling shares, government shares in entity to meet that recurrent expenditure. That's a disgrace. It's a scandal.
But it's been done before. It's been done by the NNP government of Herbert Blaze.
Doesn't
sold
change
the
the fact it's a
cable and
scandal.
wireless.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's a
I
scandal.
accept the scandal. I just want to make sure that we all have mud on our faces equally.
Yeah,
Okay.
I try to be
Stay away
as
from that dark period.
practicable
Let's go
and
forward.
honest as possible. I don't believe that anyone is trying to be
Holier
saint
than thou.
and the other sinner.
Okay.
Now, in
All
the,
sinners.
Yes. Well, in the variegated tapestry of politics and the political gunplay, the exchange, you'll have that kind of thing happening, and when you have the
Opportunistic.
well, just a minute. In the web of affairs, certain things may be done at a certain point in time by different administrations. We have said that we had no perfect administration. If we had one, we would not be in opposition at this present time. And no administration is perfect. But when you assess what is done by a particular administration, you must always do it in order to meet the objective reality of your assessment, you must do it in the context in which it happened. Now, we have a situation here where all of us here, especially at this table, we know that government and the money, these guys are struggling. They are struggling just to pay salaries alone. Struggling.
And 3 months after they announced $1 billion budget.
Well, that has been busted from the time it was announced. In fact, when I heard the Minister of Finance refer to the no confidence motion as dead on arrival, that budget was dead on arrival.
Before we go to the break, because I want to ask you the question. Clearly, we, as you said here at this table, all know the government has no money. Suppose there's an election. Suppose in the unlikely event that your party should win, you have money?
Well, the party, when it assumes Her Majesty's next government, will have
I like your style.
Will have the enormous obligation, the mandate to meet that task.
Okay.
Now, it is for the New National Party to prepare itself to do so. As you would have noticed that we've had several conversations with the Grenadian people. By Rally, the political leader, has been on your program. Other members have been on other programs. There was an address to the nation by the Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition setting out a basic an outline as to how we intend to approach the business of administering the government of the state. We are mindful that there is a crisis. I mean, what we have doubly difficult, Andres, that notwithstanding that we have and we are facing the shocks from the global international financial crisis, we have the crisis in Grenada being exacerbated because we have a political crisis on top of an economic crisis, which makes the thing more acute. Certainly after the hard and sometimes bitter campaign is over, we'll have to settle down to a united
Is the
way of running the
NDC
country.
attempting to return the favor to the NNP of giving you the inheritance of an empty treasury? Because that's what they claim they got from you.
Well, we have summarily denied this empty treasury nonsense. I mean, that was political talk.
Okay.
If it is
Because they didn't want to pay the $400 that they promised.
that may be one reason. You see, I don't pretend to know what is in the mind. I don't pretend to know what is in the minds of the commanding heights of the National Democratic Congress.
Okay.
As Shakespeare himself said, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face.
In the face, yeah.
But the thing about it is that if it is that is what those in charge of the government, the leadership of the National Democratic Congress, if it is that they feel that they're returning a favor to the NNP, I mean that would be the lowest of lows, in the sense that this is Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Matic. You have the business of the nation to take care of. You are not returning any blows to a political party. Grenada does not belong to NNP or NNP alone. Neither does it belong to NDC and NDC alone. Actually, that would be political childishness.
So one comment before we go.
To damage
one comment before we
the
go.
country and the country's image and
Because
the country's patrimony.
in all
Because you
fairness-
figure you want to spite NNP.
Okay.
That is absolute
But
nonsense.
I didn't suggest that was the case. I asked whether or not you thought so. But in all fairness to the NDC, you know how they would counter that? That in 1995 they gave you improved credit worthiness.
Yes.
And they are going to say to you, according to the IMF, they're giving you a country with improved credit worthiness now. And so we'll come back after the break. Can I do that for you?
Sure, definitely.
Owning a vehicle is a big investment. That's why care and regular maintenance is of high importance. At Hubbard's Motor Department, our experienced and qualified technicians will provide the recommended care and maintenance, ensuring your vehicle is in excellent working condition. Visit Hubbard's Motor Department in Mungay, St. George. We'll do the rest. Hubbard's. Quality service, affordable pricing. Bop insecticide spray kills flying and crawling insects. Available in supermarkets and shops nationwide.
Get serious. Get Bop.
Superior one-on-one customer service. Phenomenal products customized to your individual style and need. Fast and efficient service are all attributes that have made St. Louis the leading manufacturers of windows and doors for over 30 years in St. Lucia. And we are now pleased to extend our services to you. Try our new single-hung windows, which can be tilted for easy cleaning. Our famous casement windows, which locks with keys for added security. Our gliders, projected aluminum and heavy sliding windows, sliding and commercial doors, commercial shop fronts, and more. Visit us today, building number 19 Frequente Industrial Park, St. George's, or call us at 439-6538.
Now at Hubbard's. Chillaxing with Glenelg Spring Water.
Expertly crafted and designed with exciting colors, giving you that unique standout look. Your most valuable fashion investment. Land. Take it with you.
We now return to Watchdog with Godfrey.
Welcome back, folks. And we're chatting with Mr. Dwight Hosford. And of course, so Mr. Hosford, in light of the present situation, and we've heard it said, from the opposition a lot, that the PM should reconvene the Parliament and go and take care of the people's business. But one thing I wanted to mention, though, to take a recess from Parliament for 6 months, or if you intend to go, because that's the period that has been allowed, do you think that's a very long time in light of the present situation?
Well, certainly, I think I mentioned that will deepen the crisis facing us, because you will have a difficulty to manage, because you would not have at your disposal the authority of the Parliament to raise supply. But I again, just to follow up on what I had said initially, and that my anticipation is that it will not be too long before the prorogation is ended by a dissolution of the Parliament. I think right now, in the situation that has presented itself to us, general election is no longer an option. It is an imperative now.
Within the next 6 months?
Theoretically. Within the next 6 months. We anticipate shorter than that.
What time frame do you anticipate?
I think it could take place before the
end of
this year.
Okay.
I think the Grenadian people, we need a release from the.
But what time frame do you have?
He said before the end of this year, so there's 3 months more or less to go.
Yes.
But you say the Grenadian people need a release. I put it to you that suppose in fact we do have elections and the Grenadian people renew the mandate of the current administration. They might do that.
That is highly unlikely. I understand you.
And I would stand with. I would stand with Dwight here.
That is highly unlikely.
I don't want to offend you.
In law, we almost call that an imponderable. It's hardly unlikely. It's hardly likely. But if it does happen,
it's not over till the fat lady sings. She ain't sung yet.
Certainly. But if it does happen, God forbid, then within the democratic construct that we operate, we'll have to
accept the reality.
We'll have to accept that reality. But that is.
But then, Andrew, let me tell you, if that happens, then I would have to probably start singing your favorite Kaizo.
Which one is that?
We Go Dead.
We Go Dead.
And we'll certainly not.
No, hold on. The government's position is that the more of the detractors, rebels, whatever you wish to call them, that resign, get fired, etc., the stronger the center becomes. And certainly Mr. Thomas has demonstrated he's a man of not stone, pardon the pun, but rather a man of granite.
It's interesting that you mentioned the center, because that is quite a sophisticated way of evaluating the the organism that is the NDC. I don't think there is any center. The Prime Minister himself tells you where it is. It's left and right as he perceives it. What we had there was a united front.
I thought it was right and wrong, but go on.
Well, that, again, that's a matter of perception. But let me tell you, what we had there was a united front thrown together, particularly inspired by a singular objective, which was, of course, to remove the new National Party.
Which objective was successfully achieved.
Now, after that objective was achieved, then you have coming to the fore now disparate agendas.
The October dynamic. Can we call it the October dynamic?
Some may call it that.
Okay.
You had disparate agendas coming to the fore. And you had all of these issues as to the philosophy of the party in government and how it is to operate. Whether it would be operating on a modality of a collegiate type of government, or whether it would be, as Westminster intended, a prime ministerial government. And all of that became exacerbated by the Prime Minister exerting the power of office. Exerting that power of office.
Why should there have been that discourse? Too many of the members of government are trained lawyers, and clearly they know what the Constitution is, which is that it is a prime ministerial type of government with power residing in the Prime Minister. Did they underestimate the PM?
Clearly they didn't understand. Just a minute. Clearly they didn't understand that, Andrew, because from day one in the NDC administration, you got that distinct impression of a sort of political nostalgia, a feeling to reach backward and recapture something that was lost in the past. Yes, they are they are my colleagues and they are trained likewise. But an exhibition, a good exhibit of that misunderstanding of the democratic construct that we operate under was when one of the dissidents in the parliament indicated that the no confidence motion was not the place to determine whether the government should continue. But it should be taken to the party and to the people. That is precisely what the Constitution envisages, that you come to the Parliament and the Parliament determines who has majority and who should continue to function in government. And you had that opportunity, and basically you squandered it because you didn't understand what was before you and what your duty was. You see, because primarily, first and foremost, in our system, you are elected as a representative. You're not elected as a minister. I got the distinct impression from some people, they figure this ministry had to be mine and that ministry had to be mine.
I'm in a constituency, I'm a minister.
So I'm supposed to be a minister.
Instant minister.
Precisely. And when you have that misconception in mind, you are susceptible and liable to creating problems and confronting problems, especially that of the office of Prime Minister. I always remember, I have a good friend, he's the brother of late Rosie Douglas of Dominica, Eisenhower Douglas, good friend of mine, economist. And he worked as financial secretary under Eugenia Charles. And he said to me, just around the time when we were having these debacles 2 years ago with the reshuffle, he said to me, listen, man, he said, I always remember Mamo, Eugenia, as they used to call her in Creole. She always said that when a person becomes a prime minister, a person is a completely different animal. Because of the enormous discretionary power of the office, and because of the central role that office plays in government. You will hear lawyers and other people in the intelligence here tell you, well, it's primus inter pares and so on. But by the time we received our constitutions after decolonization, it was no longer strictly primus inter pares. The office of the Prime Minister in British constitutionalism has really evolved in almost a presidential fashion. That the government is prime ministerial government. You have cabinet, yes, for consensus building, but the buck stops with the Prime Minister.
But gentlemen, I want to comment on that point because I've heard this point made over and over, and I guess the Constitution gives the Prime Minister that kind of right. But as you said, right, persons are elected as representatives, not as ministers.
Correct is right.
So I cannot understand, despite the fact that the Constitution may give the Prime Minister, all this power, that a representative who is placed there by the people or by a constituency should sit silent while things are going wrong and then if that representative who is supposed to report or he's responsible to a constituency, right? Why should he sit silent and allow his people to be going through a kind of problem? Because the Prime Minister has that kind of power?
Let me attempt to answer that, because the representative serves as a representative of the people for a specified time at their pleasure. The minister, however, serves at the pleasure of the Prime Minister.
Exactly correct.
And so when I talk, no damn dog bark.
Yeah, but you see,
that's what Eric Williams said.
And I think what is happening here. This is what the problems that we're facing. The problems that we are facing.
Important.
The problems that we are facing today is as a result of that. So I probably think they should,
but
amending the Constitution.
No. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? We shouldn't amend the Constitution to suit the whims and fancies of a few people who don't agree.
No. It's not a few people. It's not a few people. We're talking about the Grenadian people.
In any event, gentlemen, amending the Constitution should not be a reactionary process.
Thank you.
It's a consultative and gradual process. I, for one, I have different views with some of my closest colleagues as to certain amendments that should be made to the Constitution.
These party colleagues or
at the bar.
Okay.
I take the view that you must first understand something very well before you start to tinker with it.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, we have enough examples of not just failed experimentation before we fully appreciate the model that we operate in our countries. I mean, I can think of the Guyana situation, and there are several in the African continent.
And in Grenada.
You can't go and play with the document because on this occasion and because of a particular administration.
Doesn't suit you.
It didn't suit you and you didn't like what's going on, so you want to play with powers and you want to play with provisions and so on to address the situation. You must do it over time after fully appreciating it. I say that to say that I'm of the considered view that we have not, and our history tells it, because we have had a turbulent history. As George Williams said, we are in a conflict because we are still trying to grapple with the construct that we have. That we have not quite fully appreciated Westminster democratic parliamentary democracy and how it operates. And I think it will take us some time. It is part of our growing pains, but it will take us some time before we get to a settled position as to how we want that modality to operate in our context.
Well, you see, I mean, I do take your point. I understand what you're saying, but I'm not speaking here of just an individual, because when a representative goes to Parliament, or even as a minister, as a minister, yes, you have to serve. You work with the Prime Minister, but also you became a minister because you were elected. As a representative. So I think we have
to be careful with that too, Godfrey, because the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, they contemplated that a Prime Minister may require varying talents in order to address the administrative needs of the government of the day. And so that ministers may be drawn from the Senate, which is a nominated upper house. And even that provision in the Constitution, in practical reality, may cause some problems, because you can envisage a situation where you have elected persons, some of them being appointed full ministers of the Crown, and you have senators being appointed full ministers of the Crown, and because of the particular prominence or importance of a ministry they are given, you have tension between members. He wasn't elected and he had his big ministry and so on, I win my seat, and that sort of thing. So, as I said, part of our growing pains, we have to evolve to the stage where we understand our purpose first and foremost when we get in there to deal with the business of the people, and what our role in government ought to be.
Well, we gentlemen, with the time, I want you to make a point quickly.
I wanted to say to you, we're going good, and I was going with you until you got to the part where part of this is our growing pains. At 38, we're supposed to have grown up already. The fundamental difficulty that people in Grenada have with the Constitution is that the presumption was made that men of honor would operate it. We've seen very few of those.
Well, that happens in all the Westminster constructs. But you see, there are different time periods for different people. I mean, Australia, I think they received their constitution as an independent state in 1909. And they go through all their growing pains. In 1975, we recall, they had a constitutional crisis almost, where the Governor General, in a similar context to what is going on now, sacked the Prime Minister. Remember that? Sacked the Prime Minister, and there was this hullabaloo as to whether he had the power to do so, or whether he needed to wait on the Prime Minister to advise him either to return to the House or dissolve it, as the case may be.
Gentlemen, Mr. Peter, we are out of time. 30 seconds quickly just to wrap it up.
Well, I appreciate the invited program. This is my first. I don't intend it to be my last.
No, definitely.
I like the exchange with my friend and yourself. I think from our perspective in the National Party, hope is on the way. We intend and we are buckling down to prepare ourselves to take on the enormous task of government, especially in these times. And we intend to invest in our people and carry the country forward as we have always been committed to. We have committed ourselves and demonstrated it before, and we are going to do it again.
Andrew?
I'd like to suggest, sir, that you don't make it an enormous task. The first thing you need to do is to trim the number of politicians before you start trimming the public service. Having said that,
We have
Dwight,
not said that we will trim
No,
the
I
public
know
service.
you haven't said that, but we have a reality check. Some things have to happen. What I do want to suggest to you, Dwight, I want to congratulate you. I am all for younger people like yourself stepping forward and taking over this current crop of 79 to 85 politicians. Thank you and goodbye. We need to see young, rising stars like yourself. I only hope now that I call you that certain people don't chop you down.
No, that's not. In fact,
all the best.
you know, it's interesting that he said that because this morning someone said something similar to me. You know, I think particularly my party is evolving. I recognize that in Grenada we have over the years since the fall of the revolution been recycling politicians.
The same. Time for them to, they work
But
hard.
I'm one of those who take the view that the tide of time is a constant ebb and flow, and there are many waves for a patient sailor to
Things
ride.
have fallen in place.
So,
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. If I might just add, Andrew mentioned earlier on about trimming and reducing constituencies. Maybe it could be considered, but for the time being, my view is what we should not do is to send boys to do the jobs that belong to men. That's our program this week, folks. Remember, Watchdog is ahead Mondays at 8, repeated Saturdays at 8. Do join us then, and remember, the dog is watching.
Godfrey's Wardrobe, provided by Adonis Men's Store, Spice and more, where you can now receive 50% off on clothing.
Watchdog came to you compliments Western Union, the fastest way to send and receive money worldwide. And furniture for Watchdog provided by Hubbard's.